All right, guys, I'm gonna try to finish this up. I can't talk very loud because I'm still coughing quite a bit, but we just got done talking about entropy. And then we talked about how we can't convert all of the potential energy to kinetic energy. And this is just kind of a chart here that shows you like a conventional power plant is only 34% efficient. Human respiration, which we're going to get into, cellular respiration, and how we convert glucose to energy, that potential energy in the sugar you eat, is only 37%. And of course, an automobile engine is only 25% efficient. So you can see that conversion from potential to kinetic does result in a lot of loss of usable energy. And that's due to entropy and other forces like friction and heat, that we lose that energy and other different types of energy, different forms of energy. So how is energy used by living things? Well, life takes simple molecules and organizes them for specific tasks. We use them for growing, we store energy, and for moving. These tasks follow the second law of thermodynamics, which is basically entropy. We have a term called anabolism. Remember, we talked about anabolism, like anabolic steroids building things up. And when we look at these things, and when I get back, I'm going to show you a couple demonstrations of these types of reactions. So when we make things, so notice here, our potential energy versus our reaction pathway. Notice that, get my pen here. Oh. Notice that our reactance is lower in that potential energy than our products. So in order to get from our reactives to our products, we have to go uphill, which means I have to put energy into the system. So when I'm taking something that's simple, making something more complex, I'm making it more organized. I'm opposing entropy. I have to use more energy. And that type of reaction is called an endergonic reaction, or endothermic, meaning that you have to put in heat. But not all chemical reactions are you putting in heat. So we also can call this an endergonic reaction. We also have catabolism, where our reactance again is higher, or not again, but our reactance is higher here, and we're going downhill. So we're going for something that's more complex to something that is less complex. And in order to do that, my cats are going at it. This is breaking down, or catabolism, and this is downhill, or exergonic, or exothermic in this case, if it's giving off heat. All right. So we had our endergonic uphill, our exergonic downhill. Now, many of these reactions, because in order to get uphill, we need that energy, are coupled. And so we'll take that exergonic reaction and couple it with an endergonic reaction. So it's kind of like when you ride your bike, you're at the top of the hill. I know I do this at Moraine Hills when I'm riding a hill. I get up this big hill and I notice there's another hill coming. So I'll go down that hill as fast as I can on my bike to try to give me that energy to get up the second hill. And that's what we're doing here. We're using that reaction here. We're taking A and breaking it apart. We're releasing 10 kilojoules of energy per mole. We're going to use that. We're going to couple it to be able to do that chemical reaction where we're putting something together and making it more complex. And we still have a little bit of energy left over. I do want you to watch that Mr. Anderson's video on coupled reactions to help with understand this process. And this is what we're doing here, right here with energy. So we have our endergonic reaction where we're taking energy in. There's our glycogen. We talked about glycogen. It's how our body stores short-term energy. So we have this high amount of energy stored here, and we're going to break it apart and get energy out. So we're going to couple that into being able to use that as an energy source. We have our glucose molecules. And again, if we have extra, we're going to put energy in and store it back into glycogen. Release energy, break it apart into, so again, catabolic, anabolic, catabolic, anabolic. Energy goes out, energy goes in. Now, a lot of these processes we're going to use, instead of a couple reaction, we can also use ATP. We can couple this with ATP because ATP has three phosphate groups. Oops. And so these are high energy bonds. And so if I can cut one of these bonds apart right here to ADP, I can release a lot of energy, and we can use that to couple that with a lot of different chemical reactions. So here we have energy goes in, putting energy in, anabolic, right? To build take our 2 phosphate groups here and add our 1 phosphate. We're putting energy in, and now I have my ATP. And then if I go from ATP to ADP, I break that bond there. That's going to be exergonic reaction. Energy goes out. And we're just going to keep going back around and around. Put that phosphate back on, take it off. And we're going to use this to drive I should say most of the chemical reactions inside the cell. So how ATP is used to perform cellular work? Well, if you want to move calcium up their concentration gradient into a muscle cell, you need to use the ATP that we have, that energy, split it into ADP. It releases that energy and allows us to do that. Remember that active transporter that we talked about. We could also, we talked about the sodium potassium pump. There's also other types of pumps that we use this ATP to fuel. And so right here, we can see our calcium pump. So we bind our 2 calcium ions here. The ATP binds with that protein, that active transport protein, and then it changes its shape and releases the calcium to the outside, where we're going to start to increase our calcium concentration gradient. And then we'll keep going over and over and over again. So how ATP can be regenerated by adding that phosphate group back on, which requires energy. We're going to talk about this when we get back from our winter break. We're going to show how we can make that ATP with a process called cellular respiration. So ATP, like I said, is the main energy source inside the cell. And then when I get back, we're going to start talking about enzymes. And with enzymes, we have a lab to do. So that is all that we're going to talk about. We've pretty much done all 6.1 and 6.2 at this point in time. And I hope to see you guys tomorrow. I should see you guys tomorrow.